Welcome to Everything Life and Real Estate. Let's get started with our hosts, Linda McKissack and Dana Gentry.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Everything Life and Real Estate. I'm Linda McKissack.
And I'm Dana Gentry.
Gosh, I'm just loving all your cool glasses. We're going to have to go glass shopping. I mean,
Warby Parker, they need to sponsor me because I have so many.
But you must be looking at a different section. I think you can go bigger than I can go. I have to do smaller looking lenses or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
maybe I have to do bigger ones because I have a fat face, so I don't know.
That's funny. Okay, so we are which by the way, remind me, I have a great idea for a podcast title from one I was listening to. But okay, so today we're going to go back and talk about our Puerto Rico trip with John Maxwell.
Yes.
And kind of do a recap on that. So it was a great trip, and you and I were just discussing how Brandon Lake, who led us all in worship, was on American Idol last night, and he happened to sing with the girl from my hometown of Denton. That's who he sang with last night. It was such a good.
So good. I know. I almost feel like that Daddy's DNA song is going to end up being like maybe his biggest one. Well, that and Heartfelt Hallelujah or Gratitude. But I mean, it is like really taken off.
Yeah, so true. So we'll kind of start and fill everybody in. So we went to Puerto Rico with it was kind of a part of John's fundraiser for either people who already donate or whatever. I think is I'm not really sure how or who was there. But
I know some people were like, I didn't get the email. I'm like, I have no idea how, like who got there or how anybody got there, but we were there.
Yeah. So I think it was some for some legacy members and then some for new people that are kind of just in big supporters of John's foundation.
Yeah, totally. Equip is the name of his foundation.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize, by the way, the magnitude of how nice that resort was. Oh my gosh, the Ritz, what are they called? Reserve, I think.
Yeah, the Ritz-Carlton. They have 6 reserves. They're building one new one in Mexico there. I think they already have one in Mexico. And it was really nice. So I guess it's kind of a step up from the Ritz-Carlton, it was fabulous. I already love the Ritz-Carlton. So this was just
me too. It was so good. So just the place was beautiful in itself. But I was trying to think, Linda, I mean, I have pages and pages of notes, so I don't even know where we want to start. But I was trying to think because I was talking with Chad Johnson and Jared Cagle at the Atlanta event that I went to right after that, the high capacity leadership. And they were like, how was it? And I just said, this one just felt different to me. And I don't know why. And they were like, well, think about why. And so I started like writing some things down when they would pop into my head, even just for events that, you and I both put on events, and even just putting on the event in itself, it just felt different to me. And when I was thinking about it, I felt like I have a bunch of little thoughts, but I felt like the biggest thing was they carried a theme from the very get-go, like the very start, all the way through the very end. And that's so John, like to set a great vision and bring you along with the vision. And his theme was catch the wind. Movements begin with one, not a mass. It just takes a few to start. And, he kept saying like, this was obviously for his foundation and everything he's trying to do with his life, but like the wind is blowing and catch the wind. And he went through all this. And then even like at the end when they played that song, and that he had that Nashville songwriter write it about, catch the wind, like the theme was so strong, carried throughout between like every single speaker, all the visuals. And I had thought the power of a theme to get you bought into something is huge.
Yeah. And I had so many ahas since then, actually. And you and I both are people of faith. So I've always felt before there was a huge new awakening for me there. And I've kind of been having little hints at it over the years, but this just brought it all together. And so here's what it was. You and I talk about people's unique ability and their gifts and all of those things.
Yeah.
And I remember, I think it's, I can't remember who says this quote, but somebody says what matters anywhere matters everywhere. I think it's Madeleine Albright that had that quote. And so I always try to connect the dots from different places and figure out, okay, what does that mean tied with this? What does that mean? Or where's the common theme? And what was so apparent to me, I used to think, okay, I have a faith and then I have a work. And not that I didn't try to do my best to act as a good Christian during my work. I wasn't putting the two together.
Yeah.
But when you listen to Brandon Lake live out his faith through his work, so does John Maxwell, and you saw the doors fly open, my aha was, oh my God, if we can put the two together, magic happens. I mean, I've seen evidence of it in, like you can see evidence of it in companies like Chick-fil-A. They can be open 6 days a week and do better than companies in places that are open 7 days a week, right? So it's kind of like, and then I'm listening to Mel Robbins the other day with interview a lady about us being spiritual. And you know how when Gary says that all the time, we're like in Quantum Leap, we're like, okay, I can't get my arms around that. Well, finally, between watching John and watching Brandon and the two really being that when you really can combine the two, how powerful it gets. And then listening to what she's talking about being a spiritual person. And if we can go to that place that we can stop thinking about being a human, but being a spiritual, having a human experience, kind of like Gary says in Quantum Leap, that's when the magic happens. Because I think we can catch the wind, if you will, right? Because we understand that there is a bigger plan, that we're a part of it. And I think it just, for me, it clicked for the first time. It really clicked. I used to always kind of think, gosh, God, God calls certain people and he doesn't, but I think he calls everybody. And the gifts that he gives you and the unique abilities he gives you, if you can combine them with, you believing that there's a higher power that, and for us, it's God, but if you can combine it with that, that's when I think we actually get to experience things at the highest level. That's what jumped out at me at the whole thing.
Yeah.
Because you could see it with Brandon, the doors flying open with him, with American Idol, with Jelly Roll, with all those things. And you could just feel, it's a feeling. And this is what this woman says on Mel's podcast, that spirituality is I think she said perception or a feeling. It's not a thing, you know what I mean? And so it just kind of, all of them have kind of come together, because I always kind of wondered, because I think kind of the same thing happened to Keller Williams with God's hand on it. You can see doors opening. So I think if we can combine what we do and listen to, for us, it's the Holy Spirit moving us in a certain direction, and then have the faith and the courage to step in it and do it, but do it for the kingdom and for the glory of God, not for us. I think that's when the magic happens. And that's what I got out of the whole event.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I think, Linda, most people do walk around siloed, is what I've heard, like pastors call it, where like you have a silo of your faith and you have a silo of your business or your job, and they never, like the two never, bleed over into each other. And actually, you know what I was thinking about? Somebody just sent me this video on Instagram, but the same thing happened with Tim Tebow, if you remember, because when he very first came out on the football field for the first time, and he had John 3:16 under his eyes, and that day 94 million people Googled what John 3:16 meant on Google when they were watching the football game, and then like the doors just opened for him, because he married his calling with his career, for lack of better words. And I just think that is so important. He but I remember struggling with that a couple years ago and asking John, like, what if you're not called to be a pastor, but you still want to impact the kingdom? Like, how does that work? And I'll never forget. And he said, you were called to the secular space, but that doesn't, like, God's given you business gifts and acumen and, and certain unique abilities, to use your word, in that space, but that doesn't mean that you can't bring the sacred into the secular. You just have to have the courage and be bold and do it in the way that is going to go. And I heard John say this so many times, and I actually just used this as an example with Adam this week over someone who I know who is a very, I would say, spiritual person, but they rub people the wrong way sometimes for the, and I just remember John saying so many times, like, you should live your life in a way that other people look at you and say, like, I want that. Like, I want to have what they have. not, I look at them and like they make me not want to be a Christian or not want to be
Yeah.
a person of faith.
Hmm.
And I
Yeah.
just think there's a huge difference in the two. And sometimes like people can be different in the workplace than they are in like, behind maybe at their house or at their church or wherever. Um,
Yeah.
and I don't know, I can't remember what he said about that.
I so I so agree. And another thing that this lady, that whoever she is that talks about spirituality, she has the book is called Spiritual Awakening or something.
Okay.
But I can tell, she is a woman of faith, and she talks of it in a sense of higher power for, I guess, for all the people who think it's something different. But she said it's a knowing that you have. And she gives an example of when you do something and your heart kind of tells you. And I remember this story from years ago, how I acted with, I try to keep all the things that I can really remember acting really bad on one hand. It's real hard. I mean, I do a lot of not necessarily, I'm saying I could probably give a whole laundry list, but I mean, of like real
Really
things
bad.
that really upset me. And this one was a stupid locksmith that changed a lock while I was out of town. And this is honestly before I really was, I feel like I was, yeah, my girlfriend does say all the time, was I really saved that time or was it every time? Anyway, it was one of those times. But I kind of gauge it because she talks about it's a nudge that you have, like if you, it's a moral kind of compass or whatever. That's you connecting to spirituality. Well, I remember acting so terrible, and then later when really feel like I had a conversion, I went back and
Yeah.
redid it with the people and said that was just not right of me. And I just did it recently with my son. We were out doing bees, and at the end, I just felt it on my heart to just say, you know what? I acted in a non-Christian way on this incident. And
Yeah.
I know he struggled with that because he's of the generation that he hates. What do they call it? Not, what do they call, like if it's a church? It's like not industry, but they
Like
don't like that type of stuff, that generation.
like
He's
non-denominational?
not non-denominational, but like
Like
any
a
kind of
mega church?
structured anything, like a structured anything.
Oh, right.
So him and my husband's oldest daughter, they're in that generation where you can tell they kind of refuse that stuff. And I remember him saying years ago when I asked him something, he's like, "Well, Mom, all the kids I know at school that are Christians are hypocrites." And I'm like, "Well, we're all hypocrites, right?"
Yeah.
So I went back and I just felt it in my heart, and I just apologized to him and I said, I handled this in a way that would give you another impression um, of what a Christian, they should love unconditionally, no matter what choices you're making.
Yeah.
I should be upset at the choice, and have handled it differently. So anyway,
How
so
did he receive that? Was he like,
oh, he
wow?
cried. He cried. A grown man, he cried because, okay, it's something that is, I responded in a way, and he said this, I know you were responding because of your grandchildren.
Yeah. Right.
You were being protective of them, and one of them had come to me and cried and didn't
Yep.
like the situation. So I handled it wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. When she says that, I'm like, I know those moments.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's in the moment, sometimes it's after I do it, and it's just this gnawing thing to go back and
Mm-hmm.
undo it so that the person doesn't have that kind of image of what anybody who has faith would do. Anyway, so it's
Yeah.
kind of a sidebar, but I tend to watch business people and different people, and you can see the ones that are truly combining the two.
Yeah.
I think it's magical. I really do.
Yeah.
So that was my
Well,
big
I think
takeaway.
it's
How do I do that?
I feel like too, and John has taught us this over the years, but and again, this is our faith, but I mean, like, it truly is the God advantage. Like,
Yes.
God
Yes.
shows up and blesses you when you do
Yeah.
that in a way. And, I just was telling somebody this today, but how we have been doing like the morning worship service before the KW events and stuff. And, I had a lady come up to me at the end of the day or in the afternoon that day. and I didn't know her, and she was there that morning, and she said, "Hey, I just want to say thank you, and I'm so mad at myself that I did not get her contact information, so I'm going to, because I know what she looks like, and I think I have a picture of her, so I'm just going to put it out there till I get it." But anyway, she came up to me. I was going to the bathroom, and I came out of the bathroom, and she came over, and she said, "I just want to thank you for the way that you marketed and worded the invitation." And I was like, well, that's interesting, because I felt like we had a hard time getting the word out. So how did you do it? What do you mean by it? And she said, well, you said on the invitation, I think, or on the graphic on social media, all people of faith welcome. And I said, oh yeah, absolutely. And she said, well, I am a practicing Buddhist. And she said, I wanted to wake up this morning and just be in like a peaceful environment. And she
Oh,
said,
wow.
yeah. And she said, and I remembered seeing it. And so I thought, well, that'll probably be peaceful, so I'll go to that. And she said, I just got so much out of it, and I felt so great this morning. And she's like, I just wanted to say thank you. And I was
Oh,
just
wow.
like, oh my gosh, thank you, God, because you just never know when you're going to open the door of the
Yeah.
opportunity for
Well,
somebody.
and
But go ahead.
I call that confirmation, Dana.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. Gosh.
Yeah, it was good. Well, one of the big things that I took away, and I wondered what you thought, what you got from that. I was just like, man, this is so good. But was how John gave us a lesson on the 4 perspectives about possessions, and I
Yes.
loved this one. Like, it just, I
Yes.
had never heard it like that. I know this story in the Bible, like, well, I read it tons of times, but I just never had, like, it never came to me the way that he said it. But just quickly, it's Luke 10 in the Bible in verses 30 through 37, but it's the story of the robber, the priest, the good Samaritan, and the guy that was walking by or whatever. And so he gave each of the different perspectives of the 3, and then he gave a separate one. But in the story, which I unfortunately don't have it to read in front of me, but he talks about the robber, passed by or whatever, and the robber's perspective is, what's yours is mine, and I'm going to take it. And he actually said that we were born robbers, and it's like our nature, it's natural for us. He said, think about from a toddler's perspective, they're like, that's mine, no, that's mine, that's mine. And so he said, naturally, like, we mainly just look out for ourselves. And then he went to the priest and the Levite. He said their perspective is, what's mine is mine, and I'm going to keep it. And they actually didn't help the man, because they were just like, I'm not even getting involved. And he said that's more of a selfish mindset of, like, they don't understand that, maybe God is the source, and if he gives it, he can take it away. And so they were just more of like, I don't even want to get involved. I'm just going to keep walking by. And then the good Samaritan helped, or walked by or whatever, but it was actually like, what's mine is yours, and I'm going to give it. But he said all 3 of them had a reason to help or not help. The robber was distracted, like he was distracted. And so that's why he did. The second one, the priest and the Levite, was inconvenience. They didn't want to be inconvenienced. And then the good Samaritan actually got the opportunity to serve. But John said the real perspective that we should have around our possessions is, what's mine is not mine, and I'm just going to manage it.
Gosh, and that could be said for your money, your talents,
Everything.
your time, everything.
Yes, and that hit me so different. And he told that story of, like, if Linda, gave you $100 bill and said, can you hold on to that for me? And then the next day I was like, oh, hey, I need that $100 back. And he said, like, that's, for people of faith, like, that's what it is. It wasn't ours to begin with. And so because God gave it to us, he said it's all his. Like, we own nothing. And if we think that it's ours, then we have a hard time giving it, or in this case, stopping to help others. And I just thought, man, like, I think I'm a good giver, and I think you're a great giver. And, like, could I be so much more of a giver when I have that mindset?
Well, and I love when he said, anchor to money is generosity. Pick a number you need to live on, or a net worth.
Yep.
And then give away the rest. I mean,
by the way, that's a very hard thing. Like, Adam and I have sat down 3 separate times trying to figure out that number. And, like, we get, and I liked what he said too, because I was like, wait a minute, what does the number entail? Like,
can I get a plane? Can I get 2, 3 houses?
Yes. Like, what does that number look like? But he did say, and it says like God wants to bless you immeasurably and abundantly more. He wants you to have a comfortable number. He doesn't want us like,
Poverty, I know.
plummeting in some, yeah, not at all. But I also was like, how much sense does that make? Because once you know the number, even if it's a comfortable number, everything above that you give, because I mean, transparently, if you don't, like, we'll go on another vacation. We're,
Oh, yeah.
buying another something else or doing something like you
Yeah.
just, it goes like you just, I mean, and maybe it might even be like buying another rental house for or whatever. But if we know the number and we're using that number to invest, then everything above that we can give. Like that was just like, why have we never done that before?
Yeah, I love that. Well, and two, what I love about John is John lives a very good life.
Yeah,
You know
big
what I mean?
time.
And I think if you grew up of faith, sometimes you saw people that thought they had to be the martyr or have nothing or whatever. And so I think that's where a lot of people's limiting beliefs around money start with and come from, right? And so I
Yep.
love that I think John was actually put here to show a different perspective,
Yeah.
because think about all the good that John is doing with the people who donate money to his cause and to help him. But and then I love one of the things he says is do your giving while you're living so you can know where it is going.
I loved that. Well, another one that he said that I liked is you limit your full potential for generosity unless you give from your income and your increase. Like he said, a lot of times people are just giving
Mhm.
from their income, but they aren't giving from their increase, which may be, the other things that are growing that they've built. Because he said, but then it's key to remember that God owns them both. Like he's the source. I mean,
Mhm.
it's all his. And I thought
Something
that
I
that.
like too was him saying, put standards around what you give your money to. Like, I mean,
Mhm.
I've always checked the organizations to see how much of the money actually goes to the
Yeah.
people they're trying to help. You would be shocked at some of the organizations, how little actually goes to help whoever or whatever.
Wow.
Um, and can you tell me why everything on late night TV is $19.99 a month? I
I know.
mean, we go from a child being sick to a dog. I'm like, seriously, does the dog cost $19.99 a month too? I mean, didn't it like $9.99 for
I can't
dog food?
handle the dog stuff. I have to immediately anytime that even the like 2 seconds of the Sarah McLachlan song comes on, I'm out. Like I have to change the channel.
No, but I'm just saying, he says, don't just give blindly, check out the organization, see what good they're doing with it, see. That's why I always love the Salvation Army, because I actually was benefit of the good from it, right? So
Totally.
I always feel good about giving to Salvation Army because I know the good that they can do. But
Yep.
I thought that was really smart, a smart way, because sometimes you don't bother to do that because it's giving, but
Yeah.
that's just smart
Yeah.
with whatever you
Oh
do, whether
yeah,
you're
it
giving
is.
your money to somebody
Absolutely.
who's going to give you a return. I was watching something the other day, and the guy was saying what he teaches his kids to do is when you see a product or something advertised, ask what problem are they solving
Yes, I
for
love
me,
that.
in this case for me. So he said, like Amazon is keeping me from having to go to the store and get stuff or do whatever. The iPhone, what is it? So really ask yourself,
Mhm.
when somebody's advertising something to you, what problem is it actually really solving for me?
Yep. Yep.
That was
So
really pretty
good.
good. So I think John has the same kind of standards around you deciding who you tithe your money to.
Yeah, he actually gave 5 questions and it was really good. Like he said, your tithing is your first and should go to your church, or like in the Bible, it says your storehouse. But then your offering would be anything else that you're giving above your tithing, 10% or whatever it is. But he said that the 5 questions were the leadership question: does the
Yeah.
leader have character and competence, like the leader of the organization? The involvement question: can I give more than dollars? Like, is there a
Mhm.
way to be able to be involved? Number 3 was the difference question. This is what you're talking about. Is this organization making a major difference? And like, are they actually using the money for what it's supposed to go to? The number 4, the potential question: how can we increase our giving? Um, oh yeah, that's where he talked a lot about live a life of significance, much more than success. And then number 5, the God question: has God nudged me to give to this
Mhm.
specific one? And that's one I think people sometimes forget about.
Well, and I think, has God nudged me to give, and has he nudged me to take action on something that
Mm-hmm.
that is part of what I should be doing? Has he nudged me to
Yeah.
call someone? I mean, there's so many ways you could listen to that. And I
Yes.
think we just are so bombarded with noise and information that for me, I know it's not slowing down enough and having that space to hear it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. There were a couple of things too that I thought were really good that he said, like on influence, and that influence isn't power, it's actually servanthood and purpose.
Mm,
And so if God has blessed you with influence, like how are you using that to serve? And then he said, and then for people of faith, take influence and turn it into evangelism, which is exactly what John's done. Um,
mhm,
but then he said, and this is so true, with testimony comes responsibility. Like if God has given you a testimony and really, changed your life, then
mhm.
he expects like there becomes responsibility with that because he wants you to go tell. And Adam and I were laying in bed last night talking about that because he had never watched The Chosen. I think I must have been watching the series when I was in Kentucky. So now he's been watching it and he's like into it. I mean, just so into it. But he said, I didn't really realize like how many people Jesus really healed in the Bible until you
Yeah,
watch the show. And I'm like, I know. And then he's like, but then they all went out and told other people. And then that's how more people gathered. And I'm like, yeah, that's actually really the definition of his influence being used as evangelism.
yeah, so true. The other speaker I liked was the Artie, the chef. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah, we're
when
going
you
to have her
think
on the podcast.
about the odds of her being from India and
Yeah.
becoming a Christian, oh my gosh, it's
Yeah.
like amazing. I wish we'd have heard the whole story of how that happened, but now she is a chef, and I don't know what show. I guess she was on a couple of cooking shows. I don't watch those
Yeah. I think
things, so I
she's
don't
on the
know.
Food Network. I can't remember the
Yeah,
name of it, but
but she does a devotional with her food, and she sees her food as kind of her gift and um, a way to bless others.
yes. Yep. Yep. I thought that was so good. Yeah, we've got to get her on. She agreed to be a guest, so we've got to get her on the podcast.
And I'm not sure about Jay Leno. I'm not sure what he was. That was kind of a curveball. He must just been in town.
He was a curveball, that's for sure. Yeah, he was interesting. My lesson from Jay Leno was take care of myself.
Well, and the other lesson is you see how he used his influence like that to raise
Yep,
$100,000 for John's charity.
he sure did.
When you have enough influence, that's part of what you tithe is your influence to help other organizations.
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. That's a huge one.
I mean, really, you can come see all his cars, which I heard is like tons,
Yep.
and for $10,000, and 10 people took him up on it. So for
Yeah.
$100,000, just like that, in less than a minute, he
Yep.
raised $100,000 for John's. So he didn't necessarily have to, I don't know what his faith is or anything else, but he just used his influence to bless John.
Yeah. Yep. So good. Yep. Oh, I had one more. The last one that he said. Which man, I can't remember what the verse. I know the verse. Hold on, let me find it. Whatever it was, it told me. It gave me a big aha. I think he said. Oh, here it was. Okay, it was Romans 12:6-8. And he said, we have different gifts according to the grace given to each of us. If your gift is prophecy, then prophesy in accordance with your faith. If it's serving, then serve. If it's teaching, then teach. If it's to encourage, then give encouragement. If it's giving, then give generously. If it's to lead, do it diligently. And if it's to show mercy, do it cheerfully. And I wrote next to that what he said, just know your gift and then go get after it. Because he said, like, sometimes we get stuck overthinking things or in the mundane or in like all the other crap that we have to do. But he said, like, know what your gift is and then go get after it every single day. Just get after it. And I was like, that really like re-motivated me, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, and I think that he also said, which we've talked about before when we talk about people's unique ability, sometimes your gifts are so easy, you just kind of discount them. You don't
Yes.
think that they're that
Mhm.
important.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. And I think I had kind of been doing that lately for some reason. So that just really gave me like, okay, I need to get
You
after it.
Yeah, you either forget about them because they're so easy, or you start to discount them and doubt them that they're not
Hmm.
that great,
Yep.
or somebody else already has them better or whatever the
Yeah.
things we do to discount what our gifts are rather than give them to the world.
Yeah. Yep. So
Yeah.
true.
It was good. Yeah.
It was
So,
great. It was my favorite time with him, to be honest, ever. I mean, I think even more than London. It was just so good. I felt a sense of urgency from John this time that I hadn't felt
mhm,
before. And I don't know, it just was very impactful for sure.
mhm. Yeah.
Oh,
It's,
wait, I just saw one more. This really will be the last one. I mean, I have pages. I loved when he said, God wants us in over our heads because he wants it to be so big and so good that
yes.
people know, like, you cannot do it. Like, Linda can't do that. Dana can't do that. Like, only God could do that, could help them with that. And I was like, okay, that's such a great reminder of when I feel like I'm in over my head to be like,
Yes.
hold on a minute, God. Okay, I'm way in over my head and only with you. And I was like, God, that's so good.
Well, and a great example of that is he raised over $6 million.
Seven. They went.
Seven,
It crossed like
$7
seven
million
figures.
dollars, and that was a very small group of people.
Yeah.
And and I've always said this even at church, like they'll be talking about what the building fund is and pray about what you're going to give. And before I can even pray about what I'm give, they've raised
Yeah.
so much money, and like, well, there you go. You don't really need my money, but while I'm trying to count my little pennies to
So true.
all the money, you know what I mean? So it makes you realize that giving is not because he needs it. Giving is because he wants to show your heart that you have generosity and that you
That's
will
right.
give
Yeah.
what belongs to him anyway.
Yeah. So true.
Yeah, it was good. It was a
So
very good
good.
season. Any time with John is good, and I look at him, and God knows he's looking better, but he's not the picture of health, right? So that God is powering him to do the long days, the long trips, and all the
Yeah.
things he's doing, and you can feel that sense of urgency that he is on a mission
Yep.
that he believes so much in that it supersedes any sleeping he needs or
Yep.
energy he might need.
Yeah, he's definitely got it because I have no clue how he does what he does. I mean, it's a lot.
He literally left Puerto Rico, went home for what, 24 hours, and
Went to
then was in
Columbus.
Columbus
Mm-hmm.
speaking.
Yeah, and
And
then out of the country somewhere. I saw on Mark's Coles, and so I don't know, but yeah, I
when
mean,
was he at the high capacity thing that you were at a few
no,
days later?
no, he didn't come to that. But I'll tell you who came to that, who I want to have on our podcast, Liz Bohannon, and she was amazing. Oh my gosh, she's a great speaker. We had really good speakers. It was super good.
Awesome. So good. Okay. So remember, if you have a challenge, a question, or an opportunity, or a guest that you think that would be great on the podcast, be sure and reach out to us at info@everything life and real estate. And the greatest compliment you can pay Dana and I is to pass this podcast along to anyone that you think would benefit from the conversations. And be sure and hit the subscribe button and give us a review. So Dana, I guess I'll see you next week.
Sounds good. See you then.
Be sure to subscribe for more business strategies and tactics to inspire you to live an abundant real estate life. Don't forget to rate and review so we can bring you the best content. Find this and other valuable information at everythinglifeandrealestate.com.